So the Su-34, Russia's fullback fighter bomber nightmare has begun, and the national interest has put this out. And I want to reiterate that look, Luna's got her own cam. A lot of stuff has been unconfirmed.
Right.
And we talk about that a lot. So we're going to assume this is true and discuss it as if it is true. But it doesn't necessarily mean, because we just don't know. Fog of war, a lot's coming out. But Ukrainian anti-air forces have targeted the Russian Su-34, and they've downed 13, per their claims, in February alone, including 13 total aircraft, 10 Su-34s. And then it basically goes on to say Russia's failure to secure the airspace over Ukraine was an early setback. It hampers the invasion. And then they're basically looking to boast their anti-air successes, talking about this. I will note that for the most part, and I think actually for all of them, it's all been via some surface-to-air threat. And they have 100 of them. So they've basically, 13% in the last month. So Gonky,
yes, sir.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about, is just the relationship of kind of what we were alluding to before about air wars changing in Ukraine, because this is not traditional, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not the F-16s, the MiG-29s, the Su-30s or Su-27s or whatever. They're duking it out. This is Su-34, sometimes in their own territory, either getting shot down by Patriots, man-pads, so man-portable air defense systems, or their own people, or at least that's what they claim, their own SAMs or Russian SAMs on the Ukrainian side. So, I mean, do we think this is kind of how the warfare change happens, where, I mean, it's not a traditional air fight?
It's tough to say. I read that article, and I read a couple other ones, and like you said, it's hard to see what the facts really are. So what's bringing them down? There have been reports of drone attacks, and then a lot of, like you said, probably Patriot batteries taking these airplanes down. So, man, I don't know. It's really hard. It's hard to say without knowing what's actually happening and getting around the fog of propaganda. But, if it is true, just for discussion's sake, well, then, if you're Russia, it's like, well, economically here, this it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, you don't, to lose I don't know how much it costs, $80 million fighter to a, $10,000 drone doesn't make sense, especially when you're knocking them down, in significant numbers. So, that will drive, if that's actually happened, that will drive tactics, that will drive Russia's decision-making as far as, when and where and how many of these fullbacks they're going to send, or any other expensive airplane, A-50 included.
So right here, it says another option for them to increase production, but that's not really a possibility. I mean, you got to remember they have sanctions. They're at war, so they're already at a kind of a war footing. But it says they've acquired. Newsweek reported that they had 140 total, so it's a bit higher number than the other number we had just had. And Ukraine has claimed to have downed 35 of them. But open source intelligence trackers have said they've only shot down 25. So it really doesn't matter. Like, even if you split the difference, right? I mean, at any double-digit numbers of losses of think about it in terms of the Raptor. We only have 180 of them, 169 flyable, whatever at this point. I mean, 10 losses in a month, or 13 losses.
I don't know, man. Based on journalism these days, I look at it like the Marine ace, right? Is it 7? Is it 5? No, it's actually 0. Like, it's like a way 0.
Yeah. Well, we have seen video of. I mean, they're at least shooting down a couple. And
yeah, dude. Yes, just taking the story for face value, I think it has to create change, because even Russia is not going to be able to keep that up. I mean, you're not going to be, you're not going to be losing expensive assets like that. Well, we just crank another one off the assembly line. No big deal. It doesn't, it doesn't work that way. Even Russia has budgets,
Crews,
right?
pilots. I
Right.
mean, even if you
right.
get shot down and survive,
Yeah.
dude, you're not combat effective right after.
Right.
It takes some time, and you may never get back in the cockpit.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, if it's primarily drones, yeah, that's going to drive change in tactics. If it's the Patriot, I mean, Patriot's pretty awesome. It's like it's the real deal, right? You can be in a lot of different airplanes. It's going to bring you down, but I don't know, man. It's too bad we can't get accurate reporting.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, you damned if you do, if you damned if you don't. If we talk about this, it's some of it's fake, some of it's real. We can only talk about what we have. I mean, I will reiterate, we're not a news agency, so we are just discussing as fighter pilots, we're not Reuters breaking you news here. We're just talking about the kind of the what ifs.
I tell you, as a fighter pilot, like when I see stuff like this, and kind of taking into account the quality of journalism we have, I always think like, man, there's probably like a bunch of fullback Russian fighter pilots sitting in their ready room, drinking some vodka, just laughing like, oh, dude, can you believe this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right.